their recent stuff has also been expanding the definition to incorporate.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do tell, Dan. Tell me.
Well, I interviewed my last episode. I interviewed Tara Shea Burke, and her issue was called "The Lesbian Body."
Yeah, I'm in it.
Oh, you're in it?
Yeah, I know her. I published one of her poems in Lavender. Yeah.
But
what are they expanding their definition to? Do you know?
Well, I mean to say is it sounds like they're looking more at I know that Sarah did that particularly for her issue as a guest editor, but it sounds like that idea of identifying as a lesbian, the concept of like women loving women and trans, that sort of stuff. It sounds like it's moving more towards that in the same way that you've moved.
Right.
Headmistress.
Right. Yep.
And the Amy and the Charlotte Mew vision as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting times.
Yeah. I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
I was not surprised there's overlap between. There's only so many, as far as I can tell, 2 lesbian journals out there. So.
That's it. Yeah. That's about it.
So I want to ask, because this is a podcast that's as much for these discussions as also for people who are currently trying to write and figure things out. Do you have advice? In the questions I said young poets, but you don't necessarily have to be young to start writing poetry. Do you have any advice for anybody trying to get into poetry, especially lesbian poets who are trying to get published, or just they're trying to just get their words onto paper? Right.
Actually, the editorial in the current issue of Lavender is 3 quotes from Sarah Schulman, and she talks about writers she knew back in the 70s who decided not to include any lesbian content in their work so that they could advance in their careers as writers. So I would say, now that's one point, but the other point is to come back to listening and reading. Really, I think that's probably the most important thing. I mean, I get the feeling, I don't know for sure, but somehow it seems like a lot of the submissions that come in, they haven't read it, the journal, they don't really get it, And I know it takes a long time, but it does really, really help to read stuff. Even if you don't know what the hell's going on, just read it, and then maybe read it again, read something else. Just read it. Just read lesbian poetry. It's like how I learned how to look at art. You just look at it. And things happen in your mind and your spirit and your heart, and you learn just by looking, really, and reading and listening. So that's how I learn, and I would recommend that to anybody. Paying attention, I guess.
Yes, paying attention. Yeah. And
I would also say, don't be afraid to be yourself. That's there's so many poets, look in your heart and write. And I think that was Philip Sidney said that.
Well, I think paying attention is actually a really amazing place to start, because when you're paying attention, it actually engages both the inner and the outer. So you're actually paying attention, you yourself, in your inner being, are paying attention to things either in yourself or around you. And so you're anchoring yourself in a moment. And if you can anchor yourself in a moment and really just be in that moment, I mean, things will come.
That's
and
it.
Things will...
Yeah. You have to let them come.
Yeah.
You have to be quiet and listen and just open yourself up and just let it come to you. You don't have to always necessarily go racing after everything and, drink 10,000 cups of coffee. Just sit in a chair, listen, look around. At least that's what I do, Every time I started a while ago, everything I write now is outdoors. So I love that. It's a whole different thing. It's a whole new world.
I'm gonna. I don't know if you know this poem, and I basically I think the title and the line that stays with me is "Take the poem outdoors," and I'm gonna send it to you, Mary. And it's really exactly about that. Is just going outdoors and being outdoors and being. Yep.
So did we answer that?
I think you did. I would just, letting you go because it's hard to really sort of curate the response to that question because it's different it differs between writers, between poets, and I was interested because the two of you have had different journeys into your poetries. And even your identities that I was just curious to see what you were getting at.
Dan, I got some more advice. Be strong, be brave, and take care of yourself. How's that?
I like
that's good too.
Yep, that's.
I wanted to ask.
Audrey Lorde said something about that taking good care of yourself is a revolutionary act.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. Self-care is really important, especially for poets, or really any writers, I would argue, just because you have to open yourself up so much when you're creating like that.
That's right, and it's very, very strenuous, actually. It's hard work, really.
It's quietly strenuous. It's so true. And you're delving and you're bringing yourself to places and edges and pools and that are the unknown and the unexpected and all of that. Yeah, you have to really be sensitive to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be fit too. Like Joyce Carol Oates wrote this great article about her practice, or I guess you would call it process or something. I don't know, her writing practice, where she's a runner.
Mm-hmm.
She runs, religiously. She's a very good athlete. And I really believe in that. My thing is I do climbing up and down the staircase. Try it. Just
really?
2 steps at a time. Up and down. I do it 20 times a day. But
wow.
But don't hurt yourself. It's not easy, I'm telling you.
Maybe start out doing it 5 times a day and then work your way up.
Yeah, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
Let's see you do it just once. No. I mean, when I first started, you get out of breath doing it just once, and so you just build it up. And Dan, you made some mention about how many books I published. I'll tell you, doing the stair climbing and it just, being a kind of like, no, I wouldn't call myself an athlete, but being sort of semi-fit, it really pumps up your work, and so you become extremely productive. And that's why I have so many. I wouldn't say I have so many books, but I just keep churning them out,
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, and you're churning out the books of others. There's hardly a day that goes by where I don't say to myself, how does she do all the things she does in a day?
Yeah. Good question. Good question.
Seriously. And then you send me emails about, I'm working on, a video. You want to look at it? And I'm like, sure, go for it, Mary.
Yeah, and I just published another video the other day.
I know. I love it.
Yeah, I really love it.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so.
Yeah. What I would like to say about the, message to young writers is that I'd replace young with emerging writer, and that you could be an emerging writer at any age.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's an important time right now for emerging writers of all sorts of ages. And I'm actually, you don't see it a lot, but you do see some movement towards creating spaces for writers that are emerging writers later in life too, and for whatever reasons that they're writing later in life. I mean, that can be a very powerful place to start writing, and so yeah, I think the very notion of the emerging writer at whatever age, you're revealing something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, and along those lines, I would say give yourself time, because you can't just learn everything instantly, and you're going to be rejected many, many times, so you might as well accept it. And, in fact, I think I was rejected something like 140 times last year alone. So just accept it and just keep doing your work, and you will grow if you keep at it. Just keep at it.
Well, and to that, I might say also, and listen to people along the way, because, in fact, Mary rejected my book first time around, but it had a very different form, and she gave me unbelievable feedback on it. And I put it away for 2 years, and then I pulled it out and I reread the feedback, and I understood so much more about the book. So, using time, yes. And yeah, just jumping back into the material, listening to people who have something to say. And then I actually, sort of through a twist of fate, we ended up having another conversation about the book and how it had evolved. And so she, generously again asked me to show her what I had done with the work, since she had given me the comments and stuff. And then we went ahead with the book. So it's life can be really weird that way, and time can be really weird that way, and yeah.
Okay, I got some more advice. I'm just like overflowing with advice. This makes me think of something else, though, which is that what I do is I just give my subconscious a task and then just go to sleep or do something else. And then when I wake up the next day or a couple of days later, it's like there, and I know what it is. So maybe
totally.
That's what happened with my comments. You sort of put them to sleep, and your subconscious is working and working away. I mean, your subconscious is an amazing thing. It doesn't huge amount of work that people don't respect it. They don't believe it, and then they're like struggling and pushing and shoving at their work, and it's not going anywhere. Well, just that's kind of important too, but you also have to remember that your subconscious is much, much smarter than you.
Yeah.
It is. Just accept it.
That reminds me of one of the techniques when I was coaching dancers and getting them ready for performance or whatever, and you ask the person to do the material that they have learned, and then you ask them to talk about something that's completely unrelated to the material. And when they finished performing it and focusing on this other stream of consciousness, this verbal stream of consciousness, they've actually learned something about the material of the dance that they had been practicing for months.
That's amazing. There's a perfect 3D example of that. That's amazing. Yeah. So I really hear you when you say sometimes you just you put something else into the mix, and the thing that's really the real cream rises to the top.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So yeah, it was. Is there anything that we haven't touched on?
I think that's about it, Dan. We went around the world a few times now.